your company handling the pandemic? How is your potential employer handling the pandemic? You've got questions and you need answers. So keep watching and listening to TalentSmiths Lunch and Learn Live as I share with you 5 questions to ask in your interview about the pandemic and your company and what they're doing. And even if you're in a company right now and you don't have these answers, you need to ask those questions. And you'll find a download of 25 questions to ask during the pandemic as well. Hello everyone, Janet Smith here of TalentSmiths, and this is Lunch and Learn Live. TalentSmiths is a place where we place compensation professionals, contract hire, direct hire. We place them with top organizations for a great match, great synergy. Lunch and Learn Live is a place where we help all professionals. You can tune in every Thursday to get tips for your intentional career, to get you on track, to get you back on track, or to help you with some professional development as well. This is week 4 of getting 100 questions answered. We're giving you 100 questions to ask in your interview, or if you're already working, 100 questions to ask of your current employer if you don't already have the answers. In week 4, we're giving you questions to ask about the pandemic. This is a crazy state that we're in right now. You need to know what your employer, your potential employer is doing, what they're planning to do, what they've done. So we're giving you questions to ask, important questions to ask in the pandemic. Let's get started on those questions. All this month, I'm sharing 100 questions that you need answered. You'll see the lineup of events here of every week. We're going over a different topic, and I'm giving you 25 questions that you can ask. Hopefully, you'll tune in every week so that you can get all 100 questions because you need answers to all of those questions. This is week 4, and in week 4, we're talking about handling of the pandemic. You need to ask in your interview how your potential employer is handling the pandemic. You need to know how things are changing. What are they doing differently in this pandemic? And if you're currently working and you don't know these answers of your current employer, these are questions that you still need to ask. Comment below and let us know what questions have you asked your current employer about the pandemic. Comment below and let us know what question you were surprised at the answer that you received and how your employer is handling the pandemic. So let's go into those questions. And these are questions, like I said, to ask during the current state that we're in right now, which is a pandemic. So there's lots of questions. You've got questions, and I'm giving you even more questions that you may have not even thought of, but all still questions, valid questions that you need to have answered. And these are things that you want to know before you accept a position because it's going to determine the potential health hazard or potential health safety of you in this new position. So definitely things that you need to know. And if you're currently working, like I said, you may need to ask these questions as well if you don't already know the answers, if your employer hasn't already provided this to you. Lots of companies, I will say, have been really good at, as far as providing updates, but going forward, there's even more to do as things change every day. So you still need to ask the question if you don't already know. And when you're in the interview, don't be afraid about asking those questions. You still need to ask all the questions that you normally will. And these are different questions that you don't normally need to ask, but you need to ask, because of the state that we're in right now, you're interviewing the interviewer as well, aka the company. You're interviewing them as well. It is a conversation, it is a two-way conversation, not a one-way interrogation. So be comfortable in your business of one with the skills that you provide and that you bring to the table, and asking your partner, aka the potential employer, these questions. It's a partnership, a potential partnership. Interview them as well. And you'll have a download of 25 questions around the pandemic and questions that you can ask. You can download those 25 questions, but today I'm going to share 5 of those with you, and we'll talk about those right now. When you're in your interview, you want to demonstrate your flexibility. You are flexible in your schedule. If you are, share that as it pertains to your role, and as it pertains to your role, if your role is a remote role, if you're a telecommuting role. Show your flexibility in what you're able to do and what you're not able to do, what you can do and what you can't do. Demonstrate what you can do as far as flexibility in your particular role. Show that to the employer and to the interviewer up front. Chances are your interview is going to be virtual, so you can have all of these questions on the side so that you can be ready to ask them. And ask those questions. They want to know that you're transparent with your communication. They want to know that they'll be able to communicate with you virtually. Show them how you'll shine in this virtual interview, which will be indicative to them how you'll communicate with them in your remote role. But they want to know that you're going to be transparent with your communication and see how you communicate. This interview gives them an idea and a peek into how you could potentially communicate with them in your role. And focus on your well-being, focus on the well-being of the company. They all need to be healthy. You need to be healthy. The company needs to be healthy. And just ensuring that you're focusing on the health and wellness of everyone will help to alleviate and eliminate potential stress for everyone, right? For everyone. So let's talk about those 25 questions to ask during a pandemic. 5 today. The first one. First question that you can ask is, what challenges do you expect this role will face by starting remotely? Some positions are not remote or were not remote, but are going to remote. So ask the question, what challenges do you expect this role could face by being remote? That's a very valid question. The position may not face challenges, but since the employer hasn't had this position as a remote before, they may see some challenges that you could clear up for them. You could share with them and show them why the perceived challenges might not be a challenge at all in having this role be remote. So ask that question to alleviate any concerns that they may have about the position being remote, if it's a remote position. Number 2, what aspects of the business have been most impacted by the pandemic? You want to know what the company has gone through, what they're feeling, what their pain points are, what their new pain points are because of the pandemic. Because what they were before are not necessarily what they are right now. So ask that question so that you can get a clear picture, so that there are no assumptions made. You need to know specifically what aspects of the business have been most impacted. Great question to ask. Number 3, how have customer behaviors changed since the pandemic? You want to ask that question as well. Very, very valid question to know about the customers and how they've been impacted. Sales increase, sales decrease, sales totally different in a different area or a different portion of the company. How have customer behaviors changed? And number 4, ask the question, what steps will the company take should this quarantine last throughout the year? They may not have thought about that. They may have thought about that. Some companies are being very proactive. Ask that question so that you will know for yourself, so that you can make an informed decision of whether this is going to be the employer for you, the employer of choice for you. Even if you're already in a company, ask this question if you don't know the answer. Ask this question if you don't know the answer. Also, subscribe to TalentSmith's YouTube channel, sidebar. On TalentSmith's YouTube channel, there's a wealth of information for you. Tech tips, productivity tips, interview tips, all for your intentional career path. So if you have your career on an intentional path, there's some tips and videos there for you that will help you. If your career path is not on track, there is some tips that will help you get back on track as well. Subscribe to TalentSmith's YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any videos that we add. And the last question that you can ask your potential employer with the idea of what they're doing in the pandemic, you can ask, what impact has remote work and physical distancing had on the company culture? It obviously has an impact on the culture of the company, but you want to know what that looks like. What impact has it had on the company culture? What does it look like now to be an employee in this culture, in the culture of this specific pandemic? What impact has remote work and physical distancing had on the company culture? Very valid question, and a question that you need to ask. And there's many more questions that you need to ask, and you can download this digital PDF of 25 questions to ask during a global pandemic. There's questions on there that you probably haven't thought of. Check out the download and download it now so that you can get those questions answered in your interview. Even if you're already working and you don't know the answers to those questions, you can ask your current employer to answer those questions for you. Because chances are things have changed, things will continue to change. You need to continue to ask those questions. You've got this. Even in your physical distancing, because we're still social creatures, right? We are still being social. We're just physically distancing ourselves. We're still being social. You've got questions. You've got this. I know you do. Ask them.